Good evening, everyone. Myself Kuldeep, and I am introducing a new YouTube channel related to geography optional. So, before introducing about the geography optional YouTube channel, I am introducing myself. So, currently I am pursuing my PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. I am senior research fellow in the geography department of JNU. I have appeared for 3 civil services interviews and I have got decent marks, more than 270 in last 2 times. So I feel that I am capable to teach you geography in a simpler way. Here I have opened this YouTube channel which is named as OptGeo, and I will cover both paper 1 and paper 2 through this channel. The first subtopic in paper 1 is geomorphology, and the most important topic within geomorphology is principles of geomorphology. These are 10 principles given by the W.D.Thornbury in his book Principles of Geomorphology. And how they are important? Because in the last 10 to 15 years PYQs, they have repeated 4 to 5 times. Second thing, if there is no direct question from these principles, a candidate can apply these different principles either as a part of introduction, maybe somewhere in the body part, or when there is a time summing up, or during the conclusion of the answer itself. Okay, so before starting these principles, it is essential to understand the basic nuances or definitions of the geomorphology. Now, what do you understand by geomorphology? So, there can be different definitions in the different textbooks. So, the most simple definition is geomorphology, the study of landforms and landforms evolution. Then there are several scholars and geographers who have defined geography as per their own perspectives. The first geographer who defined the definition is Worcester. Worcester in 1965 defined geomorphology is the interpretative description of the relief features of the earth. Means he has stated that whatever the visible relief features on the earth, the interpretation about them is known as geomorphology. Second geographer was Stroller. Stroller in 1968 defined geography as analysis of origin and evolution of earth features. So he had covered both origin and evolution aspects of earth features. The third definition was given by Thornbury in 1968. Thornbury, so he is the same guy and he is the same scholar who had given 10 principles also. So the definition of Thornbury was in such a way that geomorphology is the science of landforms, including the submarine topography. So he has covered not only the visible continental landforms, but invisible through the eyes, those submarine topographies. So actually he has widened the scope of geomorphology. The last important definition was given by Blooms. So Blooms in 1979 defined geomorphology as the systematic description, analysis of landscapes and the processes that change. So it is one of the widest definition of the geomorphology, where he used the systematic approach. Now, why I am teaching you the definitions of geomorphology? Because in the real exam it happens when UPSC ask about what are any question regarding the geomorphology, then we simply try to put a layman type of definition in the introduction or somewhere in the body part. So it actually creates a kind of average impression in the mind of evaluator. So for that purpose, it is essential and better to present a scholarly definition in the introduction or somewhere in the body part of the answer itself. That's why I have given 4 different definitions, so you can use them during the exam. Now, geomorphology as a subdiscipline have its own dichotomies. Some of the geographers are argued that it should be part of geology. Others are in favor of making it as a part of geography. So scholars like A.K. Lopeck, G.H. Dury and W.D. Thornbury considered geomorphology as a branch of geology, whereas S.W. Wooldridge and Morgan considered it to be part of geography. Now, in the next slide, we will start the 10 principles. In this lecture, I will cover 4 principles, and remaining principles and the PYQs related to this particular topic will be covered in next lecture. So the first fundamental concept regarding principles of geomorphology is the same physical processes and laws that operate today operated throughout geological times, although not always with the same intensity. So initially this concept was given by Hutton in 1785. The concept is also known as principle of uniformitarianism, and Hutton gave a famous statement which is known as present is the key to the past. So the Hutton's theory was modified by Thornbury, while Hutton emphasized that same geological processes operated throughout geological time, whereas Thornbury stated that although the processes remained same, they operated with different intensity in different time periods of Earth. So the modification regarding intensity has been done by the Thornbury in the Hutton's theory. Now we will try to understand the principle through the various examples. So the first and prominent example we can see in the recent geological time scale, which is known as Pleistocene period. So in the Pleistocene period, we have found that there was glacial age and interglacial ages. So, but now these are missing. So the interaction between those glacial ages and the geological structures of during that period were different from now. There are several outwash plains, eskers, drumlins have been formed during that period. So it was due to the interaction and the intensity of the processes happened during the Pleistocene period. Second example we can take regarding the volcanic processes happened in the Cretaceous period. So the intensity of volcanic processes was very high during the Cretaceous period. We can take example of the India itself. In the peninsular region, there was outflow of the basaltic lava when Indian plate was passing nearby the African plate, and we know it as Deccan Trap. The third process we can consider is Aeolian processes. So Aeolian processes we can simply understand that when there is arid climatic periods, so intensity of the formation of different landforms in the arid areas will be high. So this concept is actually applicable for understanding the evolution of the landscapes by different processes with different intensity. I have pasted one handmade diagram also, where you can see that volcanic eruptions happened during the Cretaceous period, and now the export area related to volcanic soil is only limited or confined in the parts of Saurashtra and Maharashtra. Now let's move to the second principle. The second principle states that geologic structure is a dominant factor in evolution of landforms and is reflected in them. So this concept was given by Thornbury in the contrary to the concept given by W.M. Davis. So the concept of W.M. Davis was landscapes are the resultant features of states, processes and structure, whereas Thornbury stated that geological structures are the predominant factors. So before to understand this concept, we need to understand what are the structure or geological structures. So these are the geological structures, terrains and topography visible on the Earth's surface. Now, what are the different kind of structures? So these can be determined by the different constituents. One is endogenic forces. For example, faults, mineral composition, chemical properties, size, slope, hardness and softness of the rocks. So over a long period of time, if there is continuous either compression force or the force regarding the faults, it placing on particular geological structures, it actually creates the intensity, the hardness, the softness, the chemical properties of a particular geological structures. So now through the examples we can understand that why this principle is important. For example, if we compare between the peninsular rivers and the Himalayan rivers of India, we have found that peninsular rivers have their own predetermined coursage where they are flowing. Why they are flowing on the predetermined coursage? Because the patterns in the peninsular India are rigid, and the tendency of the rivers to erode them is very tough. That's why the geological structures of the Deccan Plateau or the peninsular region, it's very hard. So it shows the characteristic of the geological structure of a peninsular India. On the other hand, if we see the characteristics of the perennial rivers of the Himalayas, where we can find that the rivers are actually encroaching the land masses. We are very well aware about the various gorges created by Indus River, Ganges and Brahmaputra. So it shows if the composition of the material of the any mountain is either semi-unconsolidated or unconsolidated, then the tendency of the geomorphic agent will be higher. So it throughoutly depends upon the geological structure itself. Okay. Second example of the same principle is plate tectonics. So in the plate tectonics, it is very visible that due to the different kind of movements of the plates, it may be convergent, divergent, as well as just slight movement nearby. There are different features emerge on the Earth's surface. These can be fold mountains, mid-oceanic ridges. These can be icelands, archipelagos. So these cratons of the particular geological structures actually determine that what kind of the landforms have been developed in the particular area. Okay, I have given a table where you can find different kind of determinants. One is regarding context between lithological units. Second, what are the tectonic structures can be developed, and then third one is what is the orientation of the layers or orientation of the planes. So you can understand in a deeper way if you go through this table. Now let's move to the next principle. The third principle is geomorphic processes leave their distinctive imprints upon landforms, and each geomorphic process develops its own characteristics assemblage of landforms. So in this principle, the immense focus is given on geomorphic processes. So there can be different geomorphological agents like river, wind, glacier, seas and oceans. So they have their own distinctive geomorphic processes. For example, river have river movement of the water, wind have movements due to the pressure gradient, which can create blasting, deflation, as well as the other movements in the arid regions. So these fuel processes carried out, and these actually imprints upon the landforms. So we can take example one by one. For example, the processes carried out by rivers lead to formation of fluvial landforms like point bars, floodplains and river valleys. Okay. Similarly, each of the geomorphic agents produce their own distinctive set of landforms. In glaciers, we have seen that arids, eskers, drumlins, outwash plains, kettle, then pyramidal peaks, hanging valleys, different type of moraines have been formed by either erosional or depositional features of the glacier. So this actually suggests that these particular processes have their own imprints on the geological structures. Now let's move to the next. The next principle simply states that as different erosional agents act upon the Earth's surface, they produce an orderly sequence of landforms having distinctive characteristics at different stages of their development. So this simply shows that the development of the different features or the landforms on the surface of Earth is not in the arbitrary manner, but it is very sequential, and there are several scholars of geography who had given different cycles of erosion. For example, Davis conceptualized in the early 20th century the cycle of the river cycle of the erosion, where he have categorized it into the three phases. One is youth phase, where the intensity of the river is very high. Its main work is valley deepening, creates V-shaped valleys, canyons and gorges. In the second phase, which is known as mature phase, in the mature phase, it actually creates the features which is essential for the valley widening. So, or for the U-shape features creation. So, the features in the mature cycle is meanders, interlocking spurs, as well as the oxbolex. And in the last phase of the Davis cycle of erosion of the river, he had stated that it is old phase of the slope development, and in this particular phase, the river work as valley flattening or the river course flattening. So the deltaic plains as well as old enaveraging kind of features can emerge wherever rivers meet near to the sea. The other proponents regarding this particular principle were Penck. Penck was German scholar, and he has given the concept of slope replacement. Thereafter, King developed the arid cycle of erosion, where he had used the parallel retreat concept, and what is very known figures regarding the slope developments, especially in the hill slide slopes. So these are the 4 principles which I have covered in this lecture. The remaining I will cover in the next lecture, and you will certainly see that how you can utilize, how you can create a better efforts in your exam copies through these principles, and they will certainly help you in fetching the good marks. Okay, thank you so much.